There were, in an unknown time, 6 friends who once did not have a time and have always lived close and happy. Their village thrived on a large tree that grew delicious fruits. The 6 possessed magical powers. Fusio, he could create anything simply by thinking about it, so he amazed others by making beautiful objects appear. Domino indulged in free-spending time travels. To Value Fog, time didn't matter. Well, he didn't really care. Expno was the laziest of all. He just floated around the village, eyes half closed, without even putting his feet on the ground. And if one of his friends dared to ask him for a favour, his answer was always the same. "I don't want to," he said with a shrug, and continued doing nothing. Then there was Enough. No one had ever seen his face. He spent all his days indoors, playing the same 2 musical notes. He was appreciated and known by the rest of the group because of these sounds. Self. Everyone knows who he is: a loser, an incompetent, a person to keep at arm's length. The only thing he could do was count the leaves of the tree with his prismatic eye. One thing brought them together: a crystal that they carried with them at all times. One day, an unusual rain fell and Tree got sick. All the crystals began to glow. The adventure begins. A beam of light shattered from Fusio's diamond. Suddenly, he found himself carried by that light beyond the eye walls. A breathtaking flight that ended in a crash. The poor fellow was stunned. Upon awaking, he was surrounded by a sweet smell. A vegetable garden full of inviting-looking fruits surrounded him. Fusio was very hungry, but too distressed by the ugly turn his life had taken. He could only create pies with sardine cream and other crap. So with no alternatives, he grabbed one of the succulent cocomelons. But all of a sudden, a surly-looking magician materialized there. "This is my garden," he shouted. Fusio was very confused. The magician continued, "Since I know your identity, I want to challenge you. I will let you go if you make an object appear for me. An object that can surprise me." Fusio blustered, and in an instant he materialized a dancing stool in front of the old man's eyes. But the wizard, he looked bored. Fusio continued, "A rainy umbrella and even Chef Tony's knife set." Nothing worked. At that point, the wizard revealed the secret. "I can't be surprised at what I have in front of me if I first saw it in your thoughts." The corners of Fusio's mouth were curved like an autumn flower. How could the wizard win? He always will be a step ahead of me, reading my thoughts. And I have no other way to create something amazing, he thought. At that moment, Fusio realized that for all his life, he had been the servant of a power he believed he was controlling. It was then that, looking down, he saw those weird paws at the end of his arms. Of course, he could deceive the opponent. He began to think intensely about a playful clock, and with his hands he began to knead some modern leaves. Then he grabbed some branches, tied them together, and covered the sculpture with his clock. The magician exclaimed, "And what is this?" Fusio enthusiastically replied, "The guardian of your garden." As the wizard joyed, the crystal on Fusio's chest lit up. Oh, it was happening again. A beam of light made Fusio take off. Direction: his village. others had to tell him the tree was sick before they left the village. ASCoC was moved by the need to find food. At some point, his feet touched the ground and he started to walk. It was at that moment that, for the first time, he noticed Shadow, a dark thing below him. He tried to grab it, but he just couldn't catch it. He tried to shake it off, but once again Shadow stuck to his shoes. "Who are you, anyway? What do you want from me?" ASCoC yelled. "I am Shadow," replied that black thing. "I will be with you forever." ASCoC didn't want it. Shadow spread its arms for a moment. "I can't help it," it said. ASCoC discovered a way to avoid Shadow staying in places that sheltered him from the sun, but the dark made him sad. Suddenly, while he was hidden under a rock, ASCoC saw a tree full of fruits. Immediately, he started to run towards it. After a few steps, he saw Shadow and he went back under the rock again. "I can't do it," he told himself. But he really wanted to reach the tree. Again, he went out into the sunlight and immediately Shadow materialized at his feet. ASCoC was scared, but he continued to run towards the tree and the sight of Shadow became less unbearable. The time has come. "Let's go back home," he told himself. "But if you think you've floated to the village, well, forget it." ASCoC returned with his feet on the ground, smiled at Shadow and said, "Come on, my friend." And from that day, the two were inseparable. All of a sudden, while he was roaming in time to avoid the sight of the dying tree, he found himself in the middle of a windy forest. As soon as he got there, the wind lifted Domino's time cloud. He felt the smell of the grass wet by the rain. He enjoyed it, but he missed Tree so much. So Domino thought, "What am I doing? This can't make me happy." So he made the time cloud reappear. The wind rose again with more force, moving the time cloud again. This time Domino was attracted by the delicate perfume of many small colourful flowers. "I would never stop smelling and observing them. Maybe the present is a good place to live in too." Domino began to look around. He noticed some fruits, how strange they were to the touch. He took one and bit into it. It was soft and juicy, a sweetness he never tasted in any of his time travels. That day, Domino had discovered a treasure that was worth much more than anything else. It was here he wanted to live. Domino couldn't wait to spend the present time with his friends. He notices the crystal around his neck light up, showing him the way back home. ASCoC and was known as the village growth. Not even the sudden disease of Tree was able to shake him, until one night, after getting drunk once again, he dreamed of himself as a child, rich but happy, because he was surrounded by so much love and so many friends. When he woke up, something had changed in him. The diamond suddenly lit up. That morning, ASCoC chose to give a new direction to his life. He wanted to be loving and kind to everyone. He left with a smile on his face. He then went to the sick tree, sat there on the ground, and had the desire to hug it. As he held it, tears came down and watered the tree. In that moment, the diamond illuminated, a light he had never seen before. ASCoC confided in Tree. "I understood that life is made up of little things. I understood that I can only find a purpose within me. I understood that love and kindness are the real wealth. We have all suffered and will suffer again, but we must never lose sight of the fact that there's a treasure under our pain. The diamond projects for Enif a sound path to follow. Music is the only thing that pushes him to go out despite the fear of the external world, a world that is unknown to him. At the end of the path, Enif is in a music competition. Musicians begin to play and delight the other participants with their music. At one point, Enif's name was mentioned, and despite the shaking hands with his head down, he begins to press on his usual keys. The musicians, annoyed by that sound, begin all to whistle. Enif does not understand why his music has always been appreciated by his friends, so he thinks they just don't understand. He then decides to press even harder on those keys until a sweet butterfly rests on one of them, adding a new note to his repertoire. "What is this sound?" Enif says. "There it is, the butterfly, and all the other keys of the piano." Astonished, he begins to press all the keys together with his new friend, finally creating a sweet melody. "Here are the winners," someone utters from behind the scenes. Enif and the butterfly had won the grand prize, a large basket of fruit to share with his friends. Some time ago, there were 10,987 leaves. Today there are 5,632. Self. The only thing he can do is count the leaves of the tree with his prismatic eye. "Oh, poor dear tree, I see you're dying, but I'm too lazy and inefficient to help you. How much I miss your succulent and delicious fruits. It will be my fault this time too. I have stared at them so much that they're rot. They're all right to stay away from me and make bad things happen. That's why I have no friends." Suddenly, a small branch of tree breaks and falls on the prints that covered Self's eyes. It scatters all over. He is afraid and begins to wonder. "How am I going to count the leaves of the tree now? Look at the sky, look at the stones, at the birds, watch the worms crawl. If I hadn't sat there, nothing would have happened. I have no life without my prismatic lens." Self collects the fragments of the lens to take them to an expert to have them repaired. But surprised, he realizes that the sky looks like a large blue canvas, that he does not have 16 hands as he thought, that the bush filtered the energy of the sun. Everything appears less chaotic to him, so he begins to look at himself and the surrounding world for the first time. Self begins to believe that losing his beloved lens is not a tragedy. In an instant, a fragment of the lens begins to shine and to show him the way. It is a day of celebration in the village. Everybody feels so tired, but all the adventures made them feel alive, and they couldn't wait to meet their friends and share what they had learned. The 6 crystals begin to light up more and more until they unified in a big diamond, sparkling in fireworks that gave birth to a new sprout.